Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. During the service, please wear your masks whenever you are singing. Our opening hymn this morning is in the Teal Hymnal, number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul. Now please stand in body or spirit and join us. Thank you for joining us, whether in person or remotely by Zoom. We will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. The link can be found on our website. I'm Bonnie McFarland, a longtime member of this church and of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Alec Peck, who is leading our hymns. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronics, please. You are invited to leave your worries and concerns at the door and trust that we will endeavor to make this hour thoughtful and inspiring. We affirm that together we can strive to be braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin the week anew. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we are in the sanctuary, please keep your masks on while singing and or chanting. And let's all take personal responsibility for keeping both ourselves and each other safe. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. And at the end of the service, we'll leave up a slide that has all this information on it. It's also available on our website. The monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month by email and per request by postal mail. If you have something newsworthy or that you would like to contribute, please email uuchurchofriverside.calendar@gmail.com or call the church office at 951-686-6515. If you'd like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office. Our first Sunday luncheon will be served after the service. Today's theme is Burrito Bar. Sounds good. Contributions are appreciated and will be donated to the church fund. Our dinner series continues with a pasta dinner on Saturday, February 18th. Tickets must be bought in advance, $25 for adults, $12 for children, ages 6 to 16, and ages 5 and under are free. Tickets can be purchased on PayPal or from our treasurer, Kate, or from Robert in the office. Church Council meets on the second Friday of the month in the annex. The next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on February 10th. The Concerned UUs of Riverside, or CUUR, the community outreach arm of the Social and Environmental Justice Committee, will be meeting in the Social Justice room on the second floor of the annex at noon. You can find more information on the website under Social and Environmental Justice. Now, I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You're welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance justice and environmental sustainability. Our speaker today is a new friend of UUCR, Dennis Jackson. Dr. Dennis Jackson, or DJ as I know him, is a math science nerd who grew up in Running Springs in the San Bernardino Mountains. He has a PhD in applied statistics from UCR and has spent the last 40 years trying to convince people to make decisions using data and evidence. What a hard job. A lot of those years were spent doing research into systems, reliability, measurement science, and life principles. Among reliability and measurement science people, DJ has an international reputation as a speaker and a researcher. His goal as a speaker and teacher has been to make esoteric principles understandable and practical. Now living in semi-retirement, DJ's current occupation is raising cats, walking an elderly terrier, playing fingerstyle ukulele, and convincing his life partner that he's crazy about her, and he is. Today's talk is meant to give you some usable ideas that include some of the key principles of happiness. You'll recognize most of them, though some of their applications might surprise you. And all of them are science-based in the sense that there have been studies that verify that they work. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign people, the original people of this land. who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot that we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Capano, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. Scientifically proven, do not inhale and swallow water at the same time.
Also moths.
We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for our chalice lighting is Let There Be Light by Andrew Pakala. Let there be light. May it illuminate our paths and fill our lives with peace, and let there be dark, for it is from our dark places that we are brought forward, tried and tested, and impelled toward growth. It is in these places that we realize compassion and learn to love. And there was day, and there was night, and there was joy, and there was sorrow, and it was good. Thank you, Bill. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. And so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who's been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recordings of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer?
Hello, my name is Tinka Friend, and I first found this church in 1996, 1996, and I actually was not looking for a church. I had given up. I had given up on organized religion because the religion I grew up with, basically a very fundamental church, and I was taught that everything in the Bible is literal and was put there by God, and if you reject one word of it, then you must reject it all. And there were many things in there I could not accept. It didn't fit with my idea of a loving God. So I gave it up and had no religious home or faith for 20, 25, 30 years. And I came in here actually to support hospice. There was a fundraising event that was in here, sort of a Garrison Keillor kind of a situation. I came here during the break. I went out, I looked at the pamphlets, and I saw a pamphlet that was titled Views of a UU Feminist. And I went, oh my God, a church where I can be my authentic feminist self and not have to feel guilty about it and can openly, express that. And so I started coming to the church and then joined it later that year.
Thank you, Tinka. Is there anyone here who would like to introduce themselves this morning? Someone who's, yes. Morning.
Morning, everybody. I'm the Reverend Maddie Sifontus. I'm actually the minister of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Santa Paula, which is up in Ventura County. And we are, I've been trying to get down here to see you all for quite a while, and I'm going to be talking to Tinka more after the service because our histories and yours are intertwined in so many different ways. I've been their minister for 8 years. I'm starting my 9th year. I moved here from Massachusetts, where I was the minister most recently of the Universalist Society of Wakefield, Massachusetts, which was founded in I'm forgetting, but the building was 1835. And then I was a minister of the Universalist Society of Milford, which is right near Hopedale. So lots of history. Before that, for 20 years, I ran a nonprofit called the Golden Tones, which was an elder chorus that was my community ministry, senior citizens singing, 60 concerts a year. So I'll look forward to saying hi to all of you. I'm so pleased to finally be here and to see your gorgeous windows. We have windows too. So if you're ever in Santa Paula.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and introduce themselves? Please come forward. Can you come forward? We don't have a mic that travels right now, I guess, so I'm sorry. Okay. Anyone else? How about online? Nope. Okay. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so we know you were here, and leave your contact information, written or printed legibly, please. If you want to know about our upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. It is said that shared joy is a double joy. Shared sorrow is half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we've received from you and which we have collected throughout the month. First, I'm going to read the joys and concerns which were given to us. Our musical accompanists, Waylon and Molly, have recovered from their illness. We wish them both a healthy recovery. Joy for the rain that is beginning to replenish our groundwater and fill the reservoirs. Yes. Another joy. Thank you to everyone who helped provide for the first Sunday lunch today. And we have a book. I can see if there's anything new in that. Think about what you would like. There's nothing new. Somebody else already looked. Okay. Anybody here that would like to offer a joy or concern? Bill?
Good morning, I'm Pat Cowender. Joy and concern. Ted's 93rd birthday would be Wednesday, so happy Ted.
Thank you, Pat. Bill?
Of course, I tend to call out to the first responders. It's got to be a brutal job, and I'm glad that they're somebody has to clean up after floods, after somebody ODs in a hallway once in a while, the place where I work. And it's good to know that there's someone there who has the
Are we okay?
Oh, the joy of electronics.
Okay. Sorry to have ruined the sound system. Anyway, it's a double joy for us to have the current minister from the Santa Paula Church here this morning. Maybe 15 years ago, we met the lady minister there at a district meeting, and she invited us to stop by. At that point, we were running a business which took us to Santa Barbara about 4 times a year. So actually, we stopped twice and visited that church. And I'm guessing it's about the age of this one. It's a beautiful place. 1891, okay, yeah, a few years newer. And we had a double connection there, the Hardison family, who were citrus growers in that area. One of their sons, Bill, was an engineer at Bourne's for 12 years with Dave, and a fellow Methodist here in Riverside. We had 44 years at a Methodist church before we found this one. And also Logan Hardison, his cousin or brother. Okay, we worked with him all through the 80s in a group called Beyond War. And so we felt like we had a double connection there. And I believe you have a stained glass window that says Hardison. So anyway, welcome, and it's a delight, and we'll meet you after church.
Anyone else? May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those that we hold in silence in our hearts. Our hymn now is one of all of our favorites, I think. Number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us. This next portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways, In addition to the weekly collection, you may send checks to the church address, which is shown. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is also shown, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. You get the full value and the church receives a percentage in return. See Dinah Rowe to purchase the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity and to those who give of their time and talent. Thank you for your generous care and attention. Now will our ushers please come forward. Our next hymn is number 402 in the gray hymnal, From You I Receive. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share from this we live. From you I receive.
Our meditation today is by the Indian philosopher Sri Aurobindo. Please read the bold italicized lines as I read the unitalicized lines. An inner happiness abode in all, a sense of universal harmonies, a measureless, secure eternity of truth and beauty and good and joy made one. Now let us pause for a moment of silence. Now I'm pleased to introduce Dennis Jackson, speaking to us on the 7 principles of happiness. trade laptops here.
I can take that.
Okay, yes, thank you.
No. Okay, let's go back to Zoom. I might have to go back to join this again here. There again. And screen. Now we have to. Okay. That looks kind of right. Yeah, okay, very good, thank you. Boy, this, I've spent many years speaking at conferences and doing that kind of thing, and it was always a nightmare to come in and try to figure out how to connect up your cables and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. It was the scariest part. And this whole setup that you guys have got here is just wonderful. It really is. I really appreciate it. You kind of mentioned some of my background here. Most of my background is in mathematics, because I kind of found very early on just how attractive that mathematics people are to people of the opposite sex. You know, you probably all realize that as well. But so we'll try and share a little bit of math. Well, you guys probably don't really want a lot of math today here, huh? I should kind of mention that you'll notice that the title that I'm using here is a little different than the one that they showed you. It's missing the word "the," because I'm actually, these are 7 pretty good principles of happiness. There's lots more to learn. These are ones that am I kind of not getting through very well? Oh, okay. How about that? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. I appreciate it. So these are good principles. So these are things that you can be thinking about every day, and they'll kind of make your life better. Talking about happiness, the concept I'm talking about is not, being at a party and, all that kind of stuff. It's more feeling good inside, thriving. And one of the things I've kind of found about these principles that we're talking about is they have a bodily effect on you. And part of the way that works is your brain kind of releases chemicals, different kinds of hormones, and it kind of slowly works into your body, and you feel kind of better. And it doesn't always work immediately. Sometimes you'll do something good for yourself, and half an hour, an hour later, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I feel great. This is really wonderful. And you'll kind of find that these principles we're going to talk about today are like that. Some of them are going to happen immediately. Some of them will take a little more time. The principles themselves are based on science and evidence. They're pretty simple. Richard Carlson, the guy that wrote the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, wrote something very interesting. He kind of disagreed with the whole concept that when you practice something like meditation, if you do it for 30 years, you might start to get the idea and kind of get a little better. And he said, no. Good principles are actually pretty easy. They're easy to follow, and most of the stuff we're going to talk about today isn't something where it's a long discipline that you're going to have to follow. It's more something that you can do today. We might even do some of them before you leave this meeting. And what I'm kind of hoping is you'll walk out with a little bit of a lilt in your step and a little bit of a nice feeling inside of you. Here's some of the principles. We're talking about mindfulness, and I'm going to talk about that from the point of view of just being an observer of yourself, measuring yourself. Gratitude, awareness, which mostly I'm looking at it from the point of view of being just aware of the present or paying attention to the presence. Acceptance, just embracing the life that you've got. Connection, exercise, that one might be a surprising one to you. Really? You know, when you're talking about happiness, that's a health sort of thing, but is it a happiness thing as well? We'll talk a little bit about that. And planning, that one might be a surprise to you as well. But let's talk about these. We'll start with the first one here, practicing mindfulness, being a non-judgmental observer of yourself. Now, the Buddha gave a kind of a sermon on this many, many years ago. Quite often when you look up mindfulness on the internet, you're going to see a lot of stuff about meditation. And I want to take it from a little different perspective today here. This is kind of what the Buddha talked about here, and oh, how did that slip in there? But you got to admit, though, you see that kind of thing, and all of a sudden, I just look a little more attractive, don't I? I mean, you know. This is what he actually talked about here. He talked about 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and Dhamma. And when you read from the Buddhist standpoint, some of these things are a little hard to follow, especially this last one, Dhamma. You see, when you look that up, what it is kind of all things Buddhist. It's kind of living the Buddhist style, and there's just a whole gob of things they talk about. Let's see if we can kind of simplify that out. If we could define mindfulness as just being a non-judgmental observer of yourself. You want to be able to observe your body from inside, observe your emotional state, observe your thoughts, and observe your life. Let's talk about the first one here, observing your body from the inside. And that's basically just saying, what do I feel inside? Is there a tightness in my chest? Sometimes when you're a little nervous, like you're going to give a talk or something like that, you might kind of notice that there's a little bit of a tightness there, or maybe in your stomach. Everybody's a little bit different in how it affects them. The idea here, though, is don't judge it, just observe it. Don't even try to fix it. Just allow it to be for a moment. So you kind of see what's going on inside there. Second thing is observing your emotional state. And basically, you want to observe your emotional state and see how it's affecting your body. If you're kind of angry or kind of unhappy about something, is it causing you to feel kind of uncomfortable in your body? How does your body actually interpret these emotional things that are going on in you? There's a physiological effect going on here. The third thing is just observing your thoughts. Let me see how much time I got here. Okay, observing your thoughts and how they affect your emotions. What kind of thoughts are going through your mind? Having an argument with anybody, maybe? Or are you kind of, is there something better going on there? One author that I read had a very interesting statement where he said, we not only describe the world we see the world we describe. That the words that are going through us inside there become the world that we experience. So it's kind of important. Once again, this is an observation thing, not a judgment thing. Don't fix them. You don't have to stop thinking. Just notice what's going on inside there. The last one is be an observer of your life. Study your life. See what works and what doesn't. Once again, it's not so much that you have to fix everything, set up a whole new set of habits. Just notice it. Okay, I'm doing this. This is what kind of happens. Part of my career has been in the field of measurement. And I remember reading one doctor who kind of wrote a whole long book about just measuring yourself. Take your weight on a regular basis. Look at yourself in the mirror. See what's going on. Do you have rashes? Do you have something going on there? Just kind of see what's happening here. And kind of see how your habits are affecting you. The idea is to use observation rather than guilt to fix your life. What a strange concept that maybe there might be a pain-free way to change. And it's actually not a hard thing to do. I'm going to talk about the idea of maybe considering journaling. That's a little bit of a discipline thing, but it's kind of helpful. You don't have to do it every single day, but now and again, just write down kind of what's going on in your life, what you're thinking about. And it could be very powerful. And here's a mindfulness practice. We call it the moments of mindfulness. The idea is basically breathe deliberately. You ever notice that sometimes when you're kind of freaked out, am I still coming through? You can still hear me? Okay. That sometimes when you're kind of freaked out, you stop breathing. Just kind of remind yourself to breathe, kind of quiet your thoughts, interrupt them mostly, and relax your shoulders and your body. And observe and possibly forgive your inner state. You can do this anytime. I used to do this sometimes when I was playing tennis. I'd be kind of freaked out about what was going on in the game, and I'd kind of stop and, oh boy, I do feel a little tight there. What's going on? And I'd almost just say to myself, forgive. Go ahead and forgive yourself. Forgive your body for what it's trying to do for you, because it is trying to help you, actually. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, the second one here, practicing gratitude, noticing the good in yourself and your life. And I can't believe that. Where did that come from? This uncertainty equation here. Something probably Walter back there would be able to work with. What's really supposed to be there is these three things are the kind of the main things about gratitude. First of all, list things you like about yourself. And when I say list, I mean just stop and kind of internally make a list of what you like about yourself. I play ukulele. I like that about myself. I play tennis. I go for walks with my dog, and I love my spouse there. There's things that I like about me. You have to kind of remind yourself of those things, because the world does not. I like what they're talking about in the song earlier today, where we're talking about, I am somebody. You are. You're something kind of powerful, something kind of wonderful. But yeah, the world's not going to remind you of that. List things you like about your life, too. Remember, a house I kind of like living with. My car's not bad. I like my spouse. I like my dogs that I live with, and my kitties and all that kind of thing. These are really good things. And a really good practice that I hear over and over coming up is just every day, sometimes towards the end of the day, but it doesn't matter when, just try and remember a couple of good experiences that you had during the day. Something that you actually had happen to you here. From an evolutionary perspective, fear is kind of what kept your ancient ancestors alive. It's hardwired into you. And what that kind of means is gratitude and appreciation, they don't come naturally. You don't get that naturally. If you want to feel good about your life, you've got to do something unnatural. And gratitude is deeply unnatural. You're going against the tide of what your hardwired insides are trying to convince you to do. The same kind of thing, these moments of mindfulness, you can use that in the same kind of way for gratitude. Breathe for a moment, quiet your thoughts, relax your shoulders and body, and notice something you like about your experience. tennis once again. Sorry, I tend to use a certain amount of tennis experiences, but I can remember a time or two when I'd stop and think, if I could do anything in the world, what would I be doing right now? And I thought, this is it. And very often that's very true. If I could be doing anything, this is what I'd be doing. And actually, right for this moment, this is what I'd like to be doing. So I really appreciate this chance to be able to talk to you about some of these things. Let me talk to you a little tiny bit about meditation too. I'm going to suggest the idea of using a mindfulness and gratitude meditation. Part of it is you almost need a time to stop and think about things you like about yourself and your life. Maybe even just to kind of observe what's going on inside you. Meditation is a good time to do that. You don't have to take, half an hour or 2 hours, whatever. You take a couple of minutes if you need to. But it's a good practice to stop and remember what's good about your life. And I am going to just make a couple of thoughts about meditation. I can't even begin to tell you how many people I've talked to who said, oh, I tried meditation, I couldn't keep it up. It was just too hard. It was too boring, too whatever. And part of it, I think, is you almost need to take a different approach to it. Sitting in this very uncomfortable position for 20 minutes, like, oh man, really? You can lie down. If you fall asleep, that's okay. But you'll find that after a while, you kind of end up in this twilight, almost ecstatic, restful position. It's wonderful. And after a while, you kind of get to where this meditation thing isn't a discipline. It's oh my gosh, I get to go meditate. That's cool. My wife kind of knows that I do that every morning. I'm off to go meditate. I was like, oh man. But the idea too is you're not going to stop thinking. That's just impossible. You can't really kind of quit. What you really want to do is just interrupt your thinking and move on to something like, oh, what's going on inside me? And what's good about my life and myself? Just spend a few minutes of those. Small amounts of time work just fine. You could do it for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. The idea is just to do it and do it pretty regularly. Okay, the third practice here. How are we doing on time here? Looks like I still got a little bit of time to work with. Okay, not to worry about it. Practicing awareness. This is paying attention to the present. And part of it is just being willing to enjoy what you're doing right this very second. That's kind of a cool thing. If you can enjoy what you're doing right now, your life kind of gets pretty happy. I'm going to suggest the idea of using all your senses. Look, listen, smell, feel, taste if you can. Use them all. The idea is let go of your guilt. That's just in the past. Let go of your fear. That's something from the future. You can put your burdens down for just a moment. And you can't stay in the present all the time. You just can't. But you can now and again. Just stop and here I am in this very cool building with this interesting woodwork all around me here and these fascinating people all in front of me. This you can stop for just a moment and be there. Some practices that help with that. Breathing deliberately kind of brings you right back to the present. Just breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4. That type of thing. You got to be right there. Taking a walk every day. Go outside and just stop and really make yourself look at what's going on around you. And here's an interesting experiment you can try too. When you're outside, or even in a place like this, close your eyes and try and recreate your experience in your head here. Try and visualize it. Try and remember, what does it smell like? What did the air feel like? Try and get the whole thing mentally. Then when you open your eyes, you're so there. It's a kind of an amazing kind of thing. Okay, fourth principle, talking about acceptance. And there's actually a couple of parts to this here. First of all, is just embrace the life that you have rather than the life you're supposed to have. Now, I was supposed to have been an NFL quarterback, but I don't know what happened. But being a handsome statistician is pretty good too. It's not so terrible. The idea is just let go of what you think you're supposed to be and the way life is supposed to be. Make you think this life is enough. This thing that I've got right now, this is pretty darn good. I like it pretty well. The second side to this, with learning to accept your life, is accepting and dealing with reality, especially dealing with problems. Trying to be at peace with difficulties. It's like I've got this picture of a guy here trying to fix his car, or you might have a boss that's mad at you or whatever. Our initial feeling is like, no, this is just terrible. My life isn't supposed to be this way. What's wrong with this? Why isn't it perfect? Well, it's not. A lot of you probably read the book, The Road Less Traveled. He starts it with 3 wonderful words. Life is difficult. And that doesn't mean it's always difficult, but what it does mean is that when you have difficulties, it's not because you're a bad person or something's wrong with your life. It just means you're alive. Kind of get over it. Come to peace with it. And a way, I'm going to skip that for just a second. I'll come right back to this, but part of it, just take a deep breath, overcome your fear and anger. And maybe this idea of using the moment of mindfulness before you walk into a scary situation. Take a deep breath, quiet your thoughts, relax your shoulders and body, because sometimes you get kind of stiff up in there. And then observe and kind of maybe forgive what's going on inside you. And then kind of move on and go deal with the situation here. There's kind of an evolutionary perspective to this, that your ancient ancestors dealt with a lot of their problems with the fight or flight response. You see a guy down here fighting a bear. When you're fighting a bear, you're gonna have to get scared and really get involved with things. That's how it is. When your boss is mad, though, you don't. Or when your car breaks down, or you have a leaky toilet, or whatever, you don't necessarily. Those are a lot of our modern problems aren't going to kill you. You can kind of get over them. And part of the neuroscientists kind of talk about this idea of our prefrontal cortex. And basically what that does for us is it kind of lets us tell the back end of our brain, hey, be quiet. There's no bear here. I can deal with this. And it allows us to choose a better response. So this acceptance sort of concept, something real worthwhile to kind of keep in mind here. Seek connection, taking time for relationships. Notice I didn't say a whole lot about this because there's no way to deal with this whole concept of relationships. Other than what I want to suggest is your relationships are really critical to your happiness, and a little bit goes a long ways. Send an email, sit down and talk with make a phone call to a friend. Those things really, really help who you are. And the researchers basically usually call this like their number one thing that brings about great joy in people. It's just having connections. Once again, from an evolutionary perspective, tribal membership was critical to survival. We're hardwired to value belonging. Somebody who's stuck outside the tribe back in ancient times didn't survive very long. So for us, quite often when we're afraid of being excluded, that's part of that evolutionary background. We feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, because our ancient ancestors would have died. Exercise. Now, this might be the kind of the surprising one, because whenever you're reading articles about health and well-being and fighting disease, they always talk about exercise. What about just for happiness? I'm going to make a suggestion that exercise is going to make you feel better now, right now. In my own personal practice, I kind of find when I haven't been exercising, in the middle of the day, I feel kind of groggy, kind of wrong, just bleh. And you can't necessarily talk yourself out of that. Sometimes you have to move your way out of that. Just kind of, and it can be pretty simple sorts of stuff here. And here's an interesting evolutionary perspective on this. When the ancients didn't move, it meant there's no food. There's nothing out there to hunt. And our bodies were kind of designed so that when you're not moving, it puts you in kind of a mild state of depression. So you don't have to move. But we don't really want a mild state of depression. That's no fun. So movement's basically telling your body, it's okay. Everything's all right. There's food, I'm fine. So it's a critical aspect of, if you will, your spiritual practice as well. Some things you can be doing, number one, daily. It's not like you can do this once every week or something like that. You kind of need to make it a part of your life. A little bit is fine. You don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours. You can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 minutes. Any of it is good, especially they've kind of discovered at the age that a lot of us are here, anything is really helpful. It really, truly is. Do some housework even. Take a walk. I like doing something fun. I show somebody playing tennis because that's something I love to do. But doing something enjoyable that they find is pretty helpful. An exercise practice, and this one thing that Jeannie and I kind of do is just doing some jumps in place, just, this type of thing. It's pretty easy, doesn't take any equipment. Start with just a few. I try and do about 100 every day. It's not very much, doesn't take very long. Lean over, touch your toes. And I'm going to suggest for all of us here, get your arms out, get them up like this. Your shoulders and all that kind of stuff, it's going to start breaking down on you if you don't do this pretty regularly. So it's pretty critical. And the last one here, taking time for planning. I kind of have you tend to get what you plan for. Isn't that odd? And I'm talking, when I say planning, write stuff down. Because once you've written something down, it's like it's out there in the universe, and the universe works to kind of make it happen, oddly enough. So make some goals and lists. Don't be a slave to them. I had to give up on my NFL quarterbacking. But as you write things down, sometimes I find that things that I put down every day, sometimes it goes on to the next day. That's all right. But ultimately, it tends to get done. Planning will kind of make your life feel real. You ever notice how life kind of starts to get to be a blur? It seems like you're doing the same stuff over and over again. When you write things down and think about what you're working on, it all takes more of a real standpoint. So these are some principles. I will kind of mention that part of my life is just studying life principles. And I'm kind of like the Buddhist in that I have lots of lists of things that work really, really well. These are some really, really good happiness principles. Mindfulness, just be a non-judgmental observer of yourself. Gratitude, notice the good in yourself, and please, please do that. Notice the good in yourself. Think about what's good about me, because other people might not help you with that. And your life. Awareness, pay some attention to the present. Part of that is just kind of getting yourself out of all these things are going on, and just, let me stop and experience what's going on right now. It gets you away from that. Acceptance. Embrace the life you've got. probably got a pretty wonderful life if you think about it, living in a place like Riverside and being around these very cool people on a pretty weekly basis. Connection, take time for relationships. I'm not great at this. I'm a mathematician, which means I'm kind of an introvert. That's kind of how it works. but I work at it. I try. Exercise. Think about, if that's not a part of your daily life, think about adding just an element of it every day, especially if you do that observation and feel like, I don't feel great. I wonder if maybe just moving a little bit will help me. Just do some jumps, do a little walk, whatever. And then finally, planning, because you do tend to get what you plan for, and it'll make your life feel more like you're accomplishing something. So, my own personal practice, this is kind of my life. This is kind of the stuff that I do. I do a meditation every day, the mindfulness and gratitude type of thing. Of course, like I said, I've got this thing where it's like an ecstatic, restful period. It's not really it's not a discipline thing for me. Exercise, the jumps, and a few other things, that is a discipline for me. That's a goal. I have to remember every day, this is something I have to do, or there's consequences. Music, now this isn't going to be true for all of you. It will be for some of you. But I use the ukulele, and I use it in kind of a funny way. That I read a book years and years ago called Rhapsody. It was a fantasy about this elfish woman, because I'm a science fiction type of guy. But where every morning she'd get up and sing kind of a hymn to the morning, and she'd sing hymns to the night before the sun went down. And I kind of got into that idea that I play ukulele to celebrate things. When my puppy's there, I'll sing the puppy song to him. Or in the morning, I might sing, Here Comes the Sun, or the different kinds of things all during the day. They're kind of more of a celebration of life. Walks, me and Jeannie and Murphy will not let us not go for walks. And I don't know about you, but he got sick a while ago, and I kind of found it was hard to get out there and walk. The puppy is how I get out there. So he's helpful for me. You can vaguely see him down in the left-hand corner here. You just see the little eyes there. Planning, daily to-do list. I kind of find when I start getting away from that, my life starts getting away from me. Or even if it doesn't, it feels like it does. So it's good to write your stuff down. And connection, time with my Jeannie. That's something I constantly work at, and I'm not great at it, but I'm not terrible. We do try and spend time with each other. So that's kind of my message today. These are some principles of happiness that I think you'll find valuable. So give it a try. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, our closing hymn is number 311, Let It Be a Dance, in the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you with a mask on, and please stand in body or spirit and join us.
Through the good times and the bad times too. harvest plains no seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance.
And now we take our leave. Before we gather here again, may each of us bring happiness into another's life. May we be each surprised by the gifts that surround us. May each of us be enlivened by constant curiosity. And may we remain together in spirit till the hour we meet again. Namaste, amen, shalom, and blessed be. Thank you, Dennis, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes for questions or to share some of your observations or discussion from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Be aware these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you are welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Is there anyone online who would like to share? And we'll come back to that probably after we get started here. So, Dennis, if you would like to come up here and see what people have to say.
Oh, I want to thank you for this very, very much. I'm around a 35-year-long member of 12-Step program. And this goes very, very well with the 12 steps and how I've learned to live my life. And so I want to thank you. One of the things, especially, you're talking about the planning, right? And writing it down. So I'm always like writing in my calendar book what I've got to do, all this kind of stuff. And then when I noticed that when the pandemic hit and we all stayed at home and my calendar book became quite empty, and it was difficult for me. I mean, there was, I think many of us felt this depression and everything else, but part of it also was that, like you said, one day kind of blurs into the next, and they're just, the sense of purpose and everything else. So I strongly agree with you on that thing about planning. I also wanted to share, when I joined this church, I had been going through some personal difficulties, and I had been told to keep a gratitude journal. and to write down at least 5 things a day that I was grateful for. So I actually got this book, wrote at the top each day. And the direction I was given was, when I came up with those 5 things, 3 of them could be similar every day. I'm glad I'm not, that I'm not sick or whatever. But at least 2 of them had to be unique to that day
Mhm.
and not used, I couldn't just keep
Right.
going on. And that really helped me. I did that for 5 years. I did that daily for 5 years, and that was very helpful. And the same year that I joined the church, I went to Siberia for 3 weeks to help start some 12-step groups over there.
Right.
And I just this week, so funny, I just this week found that little book that I took with me where I had written down those 5 things every day, and was reading through them, and they were different than when I was at home, being there. One of them was I stayed in people's homes, and one was that the one woman that I stayed with, I was so grateful that her son, her teenage son, slept on the floor so I could have his bed while I was there. And, so it was just a variety of really taking gratitude to a different place than I had here. So I'm a firm believer, and I feel it has definitely made a difference in my happiness.
Mhm.
And I recommend a gratitude list for everybody.
Very cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. And one thing I've kind of noticed too, in trying to just keep like a plan, I use notes on my iPhone, because I can kind of just type some things in there, and then the next day, sometimes I get rid of a few things and add a few others, and it just makes a way to do it. But yeah, the happiness gratitude or a journal that's a very powerful practice. Hard to keep up the discipline on it, but it's a very powerful practice. Yes, sir. And by the way, Jeannie's also a huge fan of the whole 12-step thing. Yes, sir.
Well, I have to say, I never was very good at mathematics,
Oh.
but I was really shared with what you told about how you go to mathematics. I'm a priest, and I do the same thing. I have a thought, and then I talk to my emotions.
Mhm.
And then if that's the way, then I want to desire. And with these things, I also need my body.
Mhm.
So I have another one. There are 4 things that you gave us, and
Sure.
exactly what I teach my students.
Uh-huh.
And but I also have a spirit, and I have a spirit that could get along with my ideas and get along with my emotions and get along with what I desire and get along with my thing. And I was just incredibly thought just how much human between us that we do that.
Interesting.
Yes. And thank you for very much.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, that when I mentioned the idea that these are not the principles of happiness, they're principles of happiness, this concept of finding out what works for you is really, really powerful.
Well, we have things.
Because we're different
As a
people.
priest, we have things
Right.
that if in the fall, if we have something that we don't like about ourselves,
Right.
we take a mask and we make a mask that we put on that we don't want to have, and then that we take it off and we have something going for us good, and we take that and you replace it with that.
Very good.
But so that's part of the spirit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, ma'am.
So thank you very much for your sermon. I found a really simple phrase to be in the moment. It's be where your feet are.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
So that's very easy to remember. And a question I had, when people have invasive thoughts, and they just can't control them,
Mhm.
and is it better to just try to stop them in their tracks or ignore them or just let them come?
Well, my feeling on that, which might not be the completely the right answer, but it's hard to stop thoughts. And almost the more you resist them, the more they tend to come. It's almost better just to pay attention. Oh, this is what I'm thinking about right now. Oh, here's what kind of happens as a result of that. And just be okay with that. Just allow it. And sometimes, real often, it's like your thoughts are fighting for attention. And once they get the attention, they kind of just go on their way.
Right.
So,
That makes sense. Thank you.
sure. Bring up a little further. Okay, I was wondering.
I'm
There we
Nick,
go.
and I'm a Universalist Unitarian, and I know how that is about that football thing. I was supposed to get bitten by a radioactive spider and
Oh.
become a teen superhero, but I became an alcoholic instead.
Oh.
So life took a turn on me. So, but this, as Tinka said, is very much like the principles in the 12-step programs. And I like the simplicity of this and the clarity of it. And I can see how that can work in your life very, very well. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Looks like you had something.
Yes, thank you again for speaking for us today. I really liked what you had to say. And you gave, I think, all of us a lot to think about, for sure. And there were definitely a few things that resonated with me. You mentioned a few things related to exercise. And one thing, you didn't talk so much about the relationship between exercise and stress, but you alluded to the fact that our stress is not the same as our stressors. And this is especially true in the modern age when our stressors are no longer lions that are attempting to eat us. And so even after you've dealt with your stressors, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've dealt with the stress that's inside of you and all those hormones that your body has released in order to save you from that lion that no longer exists. And so I think, because that is from the need to literally fight a lion, going and using your muscles, doing some exercise probably is a great way of breaking down that literal stress, the stress hormones that are inside your body. And so I think there is a really valuable scientific relationship there to explore. But I really sympathized with what you're saying about using exercise sort of to address those issues. But at the same time, I also feel that sometimes, especially recently, I've been distracted by issues that are sort of out of my control. And maybe when I'm feeling overwhelmed by that, I can perhaps do a little bit of exercise, and that is perhaps healthy for me because it distracts me from these things that I can't do anything about. But I can also see that as being a way of distracting myself from something that I perhaps should be doing something about. And instead, I can feel like I'm fighting a lion by lifting some weights when in fact I haven't. Maybe there is some stressor which still needs my attention.
It's a good point. And you're right. You have to be kind of reflective about the whole thing. And I appreciate you bringing up that whole concept that quite often when we do get stressed, there is kind of like these like the cortisol, all the different kinds of chemicals that end up in our body that we almost have to exercise in order to let them move on. So yeah, that's very helpful. And it's interesting. I don't know if any of you have ever watched The Crown. had a thing where Prince Philip was really getting into exercise because he was so freaked out about his life. So he was just doing that. And you can get too much of that. But yeah, there's a balance principle also of just stopping and thinking, is this the right thing to be doing right now? Yeah. So but no, thank you very much for that insight. I was pretty sure that I was going to have some very good thinkers in here.
I enjoyed the talk very much because I have figured out a whole bunch of similar, very much parallel, but adjust to myself to what works for my situation. But I did want to mention that when guilt can be a very powerful thing, a few times I've had a lucky life. I haven't had that much things to be guilty about. But when I have chewed those for a while, if nothing else, and I think back, and I'll bring this with me next time and have it available. The movie Billy Jack, he has a talk on that sometimes something happens that you have to just move forward and think about what you can do that's positive in the world, regardless of what has been in the past. And he gives a lecture to this whining boy, you should have comforted that girl instead of whining about yourself. And if you haven't seen it, I'll have the movie next week and I'll just loan it to the church. It's quite a powerful thing. And the show itself, you don't fall asleep on the movie Billy Jack. So I promise you'll have a good time if you do view it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else? I think we're probably getting ready for some. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I invite you all to come next door into the parish hall and enjoy lunch with us.